How to Build Assets That Pay You Forever. Written and published by voxfreads. Introduction. Most people work for money. Very few people make money work for them. This book is about becoming one of the few. If you are tired of trading hours for income, you are in the right place. If you want freedom that lasts, you are in the right place. And if you want to build something that keeps paying you long after the work is done, this book was written for you. This is not a book about getting rich quick. It is not about shortcuts, hype, or luck. It is about building assets that produce income again and again over time. And for the long term, assets are the quiet builders of wealth. They do not shout. They do not demand constant effort. They work in the background, day after day, year after year. Most people never learn this. They focus only on income. They focus on the next paycheck. They focus on effort instead of ownership. This book changes that focus. Here you will learn how to think like an asset builder. You will learn why ownership matters more than effort. You will learn how small decisions today can create permanent income tomorrow. The goal of this book is simple: to help you build assets that pay you whether you are working or not. Assets that support your life instead of controlling it. You do not need to be wealthy to start. You do not need special connections. You do not need perfect timing. What you need is understanding. You need clarity. You need a system that makes sense and works in the real world. This book gives you that system. Each chapter builds on the one before it. The ideas are simple. The language is clear, and the principles are timeless. You will learn the difference between income and wealth. You will learn how money should be used, not chased. You will learn how time and consistency create results that effort alone cannot. You will also learn what to avoid. Many people work hard, but build nothing. Others earn more but still feel stuck. This book shows you why that happens and how to change it. As you listen, take your time. Let the ideas settle. This is not information to rush through. Real wealth is built slowly. But once built, it lasts. The purpose of this audiobook is not just to inform you. It is to shift how you see money, work, and ownership. It is to help you move from earning to building, from chasing income to creating systems. By the end of this book, you will understand how assets are created. You will see how they grow. And most importantly, you will know how to start building your own. This journey is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters. It is about building things that keep working. Even when you stop, if you are ready to think differently, keep listening. If you are ready to build for the long term, keep listening. And if you are ready to design a future that pays you forever, this is where it begins. Chapter 1. The difference between income and wealth. Most people believe income and wealth are the same thing. They are not. Confusing the two is one of the biggest reasons people work hard for decades and still feel stuck. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep and what keeps paying you. Income comes from effort. You work. You get paid. When the work stops, the income usually stops too. Wealth works differently. Wealth continues even when you step away. It grows quietly. It rewards patience, not pressure. This difference changes everything. Let us start with a simple story. Imagine two people who earn the same amount of money. They both work hard. They both receive a steady paycheck. From the outside, their lives look similar. But behind the scenes, they make very different choices. The first person spends most of what they earn. When extra money comes in, it goes toward comfort and convenience, better clothes, better gadgets, a better lifestyle. Nothing is wrong with enjoying life, but there is a hidden cost. Every dollar spent is a dollar that no longer works. The second person thinks differently. They live well but not carelessly. They ask a simple question before spending. Will this still benefit me in the future? Instead of spending all their income, they redirect part of it. They buy ownership. They build assets. Years later, The difference is clear. The first person still needs to work to maintain their life. The second person has income that arrives with or without effort. That difference is not luck. It is understanding. Income is temporary. Wealth is durable. Income depends on your time. Wealth depends on your decisions. Many people chase higher income, thinking it will solve everything. Sometimes it helps, but it rarely creates freedom by itself. A higher income without assets often leads to higher expenses. The pressure remains. The cycle continues. This is why some high earners feel trapped. They make more money but own very little. They upgraded their lifestyle but not their foundation. Wealth does not ask how much you earn. It asks what you build with what you earn. Think of income as water flowing through your hands. If you do nothing, it disappears. Wealth is the container that holds the water and keeps it available. Without a container, no amount of water is enough. This is where assets come in. An asset is something that puts money back into your life. It may take time to build. It may take patience to grow. But once it exists, it supports you. A job is not an asset. A skill alone is not an asset. They are tools. They produce income. An asset is what you buy or build with that income. This could be a business that runs on systems. It could be investments that grow over time. It could be intellectual property that earns repeatedly. The form matters less than the function. The function is simple. It pays you again and again. This is why wealthy people focus on ownership. Ownership changes the rules. When you own something productive, you are no longer paid only for your time. You are paid for value that continues. This is also why wealth often looks quiet. It is not flashy. It is not loud. True wealth does not need to prove itself. It shows up as options. It shows up as choice. It shows up as peace. Now let us talk about a common misunderstanding. Many people think wealth requires large amounts of money. That belief keeps them waiting. Waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for more income. But wealth rarely starts big. It starts small and grows steadily. The habit of building wealth matters more than the amount. A small asset built early often beats a large asset built late. Time is a multiplier. Consistency is the engine. This is why this book begins here. Before strategies, before methods, before opportunities. You must understand the difference between income and wealth. Income feeds today. Wealth feeds tomorrow. Income feels urgent. Wealth feels patient. Income demands attention. Wealth rewards direction. Once you understand this, your decisions change. You stop asking how much you make. You start asking what you are building. You stop chasing more work. You start designing better systems. You stop thinking short term. You start thinking in decades. Here is a practical insight you can apply right now. Look at your income and ask one question. How much of this is being converted into assets? Not someday, not later. Now, even a small percentage matters. Wealth is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in quiet choices, repeated over time. This chapter is not meant to make you feel behind. It is meant to make you aware. Awareness creates control. Control creates progress. As you move forward in this book, remember this foundation. Income is important, but wealth is essential. Income helps you survive. Wealth helps you live. And from this point on, every chapter will show you how to move from earning money to building something that lasts. This is where the shift begins. Chapter 2. Why assets are the real goal. Most people believe the goal is more money. More income, more pay, more cash, coming in each month. But money is not the real goal. Assets are. Money is temporary. Assets are lasting. Money passes through your hands. Assets stay and continue to produce value. This distinction is small, but it changes how you build your future. If money were the goal, then the highest earners would always be the freest people. But that is not what we see. Many people earn a lot and still feel pressure. They still worry. They still depend on the next check. Why does this happen? Because income without assets creates dependence. Assets create independence. Let us slow this down and make it clear. Income answers one question. How much did I earn this month? Assets answer a different question. How long will I be supported if I stop working? That is the real measure of freedom. An asset is not something you admire. It is something that performs. It works while you sleep. It works while you rest. It works while your attention is elsewhere. That is why assets are the real goal. Consider a simple example. Imagine someone who earns well, but spends nearly everything. At the end of each month, the account returns close to zero. The cycle repeats. Now imagine someone who earns less but owns assets. Small ones at first, then larger ones over time. Their income may not impress anyone at the beginning, but their position grows stronger each year. Eventually, the second person controls their time. The first person still trades it. This difference is not intelligence. It is direction. Assets shift the direction of your life. When you focus only on income, you stay in reaction mode. You react to bills. You react to needs. You react to pressure. When you focus on assets, you enter creation mode. You build something once and benefit many times. This is how leverage is created. Assets give you leverage over time. 1 hour of work can pay you for years if it creates an asset. The same hour spent only for income pays once and disappears. That does not make income bad. Income is necessary. But income is a tool. Assets are the destination. Many people never reach this destination because they were never taught to look for it. From a young age, the message is clear. Study hard, work hard, earn more. Rarely does anyone say, own more, build more, create systems, so people do exactly what they were taught. They improve their skills. They work longer hours. They chase promotions. All of that can help. But without assets, it leads to a ceiling. Assets remove ceilings. An asset does not care how tired you are. It does not need motivation. It does not burn out. It simply follows its structure. This is why assets create stability. When life changes, assets soften the impact. When income slows, assets continue. When opportunities disappear, assets remain. This is also why assets reduce fear. Fear often comes from uncertainty. Uncertainty comes from dependence on effort alone. Assets reduce that dependence. Now let us address a common misunderstanding. Assets do not mean doing nothing. They often require work at the beginning. Sometimes a lot of work. But the nature of the work is different. You work to build, not just to earn. You work to create something that lasts beyond today. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. It requires patience. It requires delayed rewards. But delayed rewards are how wealth is built. Immediate rewards keep you busy. Delayed rewards make you free. This is why asset builders think long-term. They ask different questions. Will this still pay me next year? Will this still matter in 5 years? Will this still exist when my effort is removed? If the answer is no, it may be income. But it is not an asset. Assets also create choice. Choice to work less. Choice to work differently. Choice to walk away when something no longer serves you. This is not about laziness. It is about control. Control over time. Control over energy. Control over direction. Assets give you that control. Here is a practical way to apply this thinking. Look at your current efforts. Ask yourself one honest question. If I stop doing this tomorrow, does anything continue to pay me? If the answer is no, then you are working for income only. That is not a problem. It is a starting point. The next step is simple. Ask how part of your effort can be turned into something repeatable. A system. A product. An ownership stake. a process that runs without constant attention. This is how income turns into assets. It does not happen overnight. It happens through intentional design. This chapter is about clarity, not pressure, not comparison. Clarity. Once you understand why assets are the real goal, your priorities shift. You spend differently. You save differently. You think differently. You stop asking how fast can I make money. You start asking how long can this pay me. That question alone can change your future. Assets are not about escape. They are about construction. You are building support for your future self. And as you continue through this book, you will learn how to choose, build, protect, and grow assets that do exactly that. Because income helps you live today, but assets are what carry you forward. That is why assets are the real goal. Chapter 3. How money should work for you. Most people are taught to chase money. Very few are taught to direct it. From an early age, the message is simple. Study, work, earn, spend, repeat. Money becomes something you pursue, not something you command. But money was never meant to lead your life. It was meant to serve it. This chapter is about reversing that relationship. Money should work for you, not the other way around. Let us begin with a simple truth. Money has no intelligence of its own. It has no direction. It goes wherever it is sent. If you do not decide where your money goes, it will decide for you. And it usually chooses comfort, habit, and convenience. That is why so many people earn money and still feel powerless. They make decisions every day, but they rarely make decisions about their money. When money works against you, it creates pressure. Bills pile up, stress increases, choices shrink. When money works for you, it creates space. Space to think, space to plan, space to choose. The difference is not how much money you have. It is how you use it. Think of money as an employee. A good employee needs instructions. Without them, nothing useful happens. Most people never give their money a job. They let it drift. They let it disappear. Asset builders do the opposite. They assign money a purpose. They tell it exactly what to do. Some money pays for living. Some money prepares for the future. Some money is sent out to return with more. That last part is critical. Money that returns with more money is working. Money that only leaves is not. This does not mean you never spend. Spending is necessary. Life must be lived. But spending without intention turns money into a short-term solution, instead of a long-term tool. Here is an example. Two people receive the same bonus. The first person sees it as a reward. They upgrade their lifestyle. The money feels good, then it is gone. The second person sees it as leverage. They use part of it to build something that lasts. Months later, the bonus is gone for both. But only one person gained something permanent. The difference is not discipline alone. It is understanding. Money works best when it is treated as a builder, not a prize. This is why wealthy systems focus on flow, not accumulation. It is not about hoarding money. It is about moving it wisely. Money should flow into assets. Assets should produce more money. That money should be directed again. This cycle is simple, but it is powerful. Most people break the cycle at the first step. They earn and consume. They never reach creation. When money works for you, effort becomes optional over time. That does not mean you stop working. It means your work becomes a choice, not a requirement. This is where freedom begins. Another important idea must be addressed here. Money follows attention. If you never pay attention to your money, it will never grow beyond your effort. If you guide it carefully, it multiplies. This does not require complexity. It requires consistency. Small, repeated decisions matter more than dramatic moves. Money does not respond to emotion. It responds to structure. When your money has structure, it behaves predictably. When it does not, it disappears unpredictably. This is why systems matter. A system removes emotion from decisions. It turns good intentions into automatic action. When money works for you, it is protected from impulse. It is guided by rules you chose in advance. This chapter is not asking you to become obsessed with money. It is asking you to become intentional. Money is neutral. It becomes helpful or harmful based on how it is used. Used without direction, it creates stress. Used with purpose, it creates opportunity. Here is a simple mindset shift that changes everything. Do not ask what can I buy with this money. Ask what can I build with it. This question slows you down. It creates awareness. It introduces long-term thinking into short-term moments. You do not need to eliminate enjoyment to do this. You only need balance. Money that works for you does three things. It supports your present. It protects your future. It creates growth beyond your effort. If your money is only doing one of these, it is underutilized. Now let us be practical. You do not need large amounts of money to start. You need clarity. Even a small amount, when directed consistently, begins to change your position. The habit matters more than the size. Money respects habits. If your habit is consumption, money disappears. If your habit is construction, money multiplies. This is why asset builders focus on behavior before opportunity. They build the habit of directing money before they ever have large amounts. That habit scales. As your income grows, the system grows with it. Without a system, growth creates chaos. Money working for you should feel calm, not stressful, not rushed. It should feel steady, predictable, intentional. This chapter is about reclaiming control. Not control over every dollar. Control over direction. Once you control direction, results follow. As you move forward in this book, remember this. Money is not the goal. Money is the worker. Assets are the builders. Systems are the managers. And you are the one who decides how they all work together. When you understand this, money stops being something you chase. It becomes something you deploy. That is how money should work for you. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Asset Builders. Asset builders think differently. Not because they are smarter, but because they see the world through a different lens. This chapter is about that lens. Most people focus on effort. Asset builders focus on outcomes. Most people ask how hard something is. Asset builders ask how long it will last. This difference begins in the mind. Psychology shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. And results reinforce psychology. That cycle works whether you understand it or not. Asset builders are not driven by urgency. They are driven by direction. They do not rush. They do not panic. They do not chase every opportunity that appears. They move with intention. One of the strongest traits of asset builders is patience. Patience is not passive. It is strategic. Asset builders understand that time is not the enemy. Time is the partner. They are willing to wait for results because they are building something that grows. They trade speed for sustainability. This mindset is rare because it goes against modern habits. Most systems reward immediacy, fast results, quick feedback, instant reward. Assets do not work that way. Assets reward those who can delay gratification. Asset builders train themselves to enjoy progress instead of payoff. They focus on building momentum, not on feeling rich. This is why they appear calm even when results are slow. They know what they are building. Another key psychological difference is how asset builders view work. They do not hate work, but they do not worship it either. Work is a tool, not an identity. Many people attach their worth to how busy they are. Asset builders attach their value to what they create. They ask different questions. Will this effort produce something reusable? Will this effort continue without me? Will this effort compound over time? If the answer is no, they limit how much energy they invest. This protects them from burnout. Asset builders are not lazy. They are selective. Selectivity is a psychological skill. It requires confidence. It requires clarity. It requires the ability to say no. This is difficult because saying no feels like loss. But asset builders see it as focus. Focus multiplies results. Another important trait is emotional discipline. Asset builders do not let emotions guide financial decisions. They expect uncertainty. They expect delays. They expect discomfort. Because of this, they are rarely surprised. When something does not work, they adjust. They do not quit. They do not panic. Emotion is acknowledged but not obeyed. This is a learned behavior. It comes from understanding that assets operate on timelines longer than feelings. Asset builders also think in systems. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on structure. Motivation is unstable. Structure is reliable. Instead of asking how they will feel tomorrow, they design systems that work regardless of mood. This reduces decision fatigue. It creates consistency. Consistency is a psychological advantage. Small actions done regularly outperform large actions done occasionally. Asset builders understand this deeply. They do not try to be perfect. They try to be consistent. Another powerful psychological shift is how asset builders view risk. Most people fear risk and avoid it completely. Others chase risk without understanding it. Asset builders sit in the middle. They respect risk. They measure it. They manage it. They understand that avoiding all risk guarantees stagnation. They also understand that unmanaged risk leads to collapse. So they choose controlled exposure. This mindset removes fear. Fear comes from the unknown. Understanding turns the unknown into something manageable. Asset builders replace fear with preparation. They ask what can go wrong. They plan for it. Then they move forward. This calm approach allows them to act while others freeze. Another difference is how asset builders see failure. Failure is not personal. It is data. They do not label themselves when something fails. They label the process. This psychological separation is critical. When failure attacks identity, progress stops. When failure informs strategy, progress accelerates. Asset builders are curious, not defensive. They review outcomes. They refine systems. They continue. This is why their results improve over time. Now let us talk about comparison. Asset builders avoid constant comparison. They understand that every asset has a different timeline. Comparing early stages to mature results creates frustration. They compare themselves only to their past position. Am I building more than before? Am I more structured than before? Am I more patient than before? These are the metrics that matter. This internal focus builds confidence. Confidence allows long-term thinking. Long-term thinking creates wealth. Here is a practical insight you can apply. Observe how you react to delay. Do you get anxious when results take time? Do you lose interest when rewards are not immediate? This reaction reveals your current psychology. The good news is this: psychology is trainable. Asset builder thinking is not a personality trait. It is a practiced skill. As you build it by choosing patience, by choosing structure, by choosing long-term outcomes over short-term relief. This chapter exists to show you what must happen internally before results appear externally. Assets are built with systems, but systems are built with decisions, and decisions are shaped by psychology. As you move forward, remember this: your mindset will determine whether assets become frustrating or freeing. Train your psychology, and the strategies in this book will work for you. Ignore it, and even the best ideas will feel heavy. Asset builders are not special. They are prepared, and preparation always begins in the mind. Chapter 5. The Power of Ownership. Ownership changes everything. When you own something productive, the rules are different. You are no longer waiting to be paid. You are positioned to be rewarded. Most people spend their lives working inside systems they do not own. They follow schedules they did not design. They accept limits they did not choose. Ownership breaks that pattern. Ownership is not about status. It is about control. Control over how value is created. Control over how rewards are distributed. Control over how time is used. This is why ownership sits at the center of lasting wealth. Let us clarify something important. Ownership does not mean you never work. It means your work creates leverage. When you work without ownership, effort is exchanged for income once. When you work with ownership, effort creates something that keeps producing. This difference is subtle but powerful. Imagine two people with the same skill. One person sells their skill by the hour. The other person builds a system around that skill. The first person gets paid when they show up. The second person gets paid when the system performs. Both may work hard, but only one builds something that can outgrow them. That is the power of ownership. Ownership shifts your role. You move from participant to architect, from worker to builder, from dependent to positioned. This is why wealthy individuals focus on equity. Equity represents ownership. It represents a claim on future value. Wages pay for today. Equity pays for tomorrow. Many people avoid ownership because it feels complex. They believe it requires large capital or special knowledge. That belief is limiting. Ownership often begins small. A small stake, a simple system, a basic structure. What matters is not size at the start. What matters is direction. Every step toward ownership increases your leverage. Another important truth must be understood. Ownership is where value accumulates. When you own an asset, improvements increase its worth. When you do not, improvements increase someone else's. This is why asset builders are selective about where they invest their energy. They ask a critical question: who benefits most if this succeeds? If the answer is always someone else, ownership is missing. This does not mean you refuse all employment or collaboration. It means you recognize the role each activity plays. Income supports life. Ownership builds it. Ownership also changes how you see risk. Many people believe ownership is risky. In reality, lack of ownership is often riskier. When your income depends entirely on external decisions, you are exposed. When you own assets, you create buffers. Ownership spreads risk across time and sources. This creates resilience. Resilience is one of the most overlooked benefits of ownership. When challenges appear, owners adapt. When conditions change, owners adjust. Those without ownership must wait for permission or opportunity. Owners create options. Another shift happens internally when ownership is present. Responsibility increases. When you own something, excuses disappear. Blame loses its power. This may sound uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. Responsibility gives you agency. Agency gives you control. Control gives you confidence. Asset builders welcome this responsibility. They prefer control over comfort. Comfort feels safe in the moment. Control creates safety over time. Ownership also rewards learning. When you own knowledge compounds, you learn how systems work. You learn how value is created. You learn how decisions affect outcomes. This learning stays with you. Even if one asset fails, the understanding carries forward. This is why experienced asset builders recover faster from setbacks. They are not starting over. They are applying refined judgment. Now let us talk about a common misconception. Ownership does not always mean doing everything yourself. In fact, effective ownership often means the opposite. You design. You delegate. You oversee. Ownership is about direction, not micromanagement. Trying to control every detail limits growth. Building systems enables scale. This is another reason ownership creates freedom. Freedom does not come from absence of work. It comes from removal of dependence on constant effort. Ownership allows you to step back without everything collapsing. That is real leverage. Here is a practical way to evaluate your current position. List the activities you spend the most time on. Then ask one simple question. Do I own the outcome of this effort? If the answer is no, it is income-focused. If the answer is yes, it is asset-focused. Neither is wrong. But balance matters. Too much income focus creates exhaustion. Too little income focus creates instability. Ownership bridges the two. Income fuels ownership. Ownership sustains income. This chapter is not asking you to abandon your current path. It is asking you to add a new layer. A layer where your effort builds equity. A layer where your time creates lasting value. Ownership does not require perfection. It requires intention. You begin by choosing to own something small. You learn. You improve. You expand. Over time, ownership changes how you think. You stop asking what will I be paid? You start asking what will this become? That question leads to different decisions. Different decisions lead to different outcomes. As you continue through this book, you will explore different forms of ownership. You will learn how to build it, how to protect it, and how to grow it. But remember this foundation. Ownership is not a bonus. It is the source. It is where effort turns into assets. It is where value accumulates. It is where freedom is built. This is the power of ownership. Chapter 6. Time, Compounding, and Forever. Income. Time is the most misunderstood force in wealth building. Most people see time as something that works against them. Asset builders see time as their greatest ally. This chapter explains why. Money alone does not create lasting income. Effort alone does not create freedom. Time, when combined with assets, does. Compounding is how small actions become permanent results. Let us simplify this. Compounding means growth builds on growth. Results stack. Momentum increases. The longer something compounds, the stronger it becomes. Most people never experience this because they stop too early. They expect fast results. When progress feels slow, they lose interest. They move on. Asset builders stay. They understand that the early stage always feels quiet. Nothing seems to be happening. But beneath the surface, structure is forming. This is where patience becomes powerful. Imagine planting a tree. At first, there is no visible progress. Weeks pass, months pass. If you dig it up to check, you destroy it. But if you allow time to do its work, growth becomes inevitable. Assets grow the same way. The beginning requires belief. The middle requires consistency. The end rewards both. Forever income is not created by intensity. It is created by duration. Doing something small for a long time beats doing something big for a short time. This is why time matters more than talent. Talent can create speed. Time creates permanence. Compounding also works on behavior. Small habits repeated daily shape outcomes over years. Saving a little consistently builds capital. Reinvesting regularly builds momentum. Learning continuously builds judgment. None of this feels dramatic. That is why it works. Forever income is quiet income. It does not arrive with excitement. It arrives with reliability. This reliability creates peace. Most people underestimate how long real wealth takes. They overestimate how fast it should happen. Asset builders reverse this. They expect slow beginnings. They plan for long timelines. They measure progress in years, not weeks. This removes frustration. When expectations align with reality, persistence becomes easier. Time also reduces risk. The longer an asset performs, the more predictable it becomes. Patterns appear. Confidence grows. Short-term thinking increases stress. Long-term thinking reduces it. This is another psychological advantage of compounding. You stop reacting. You start observing. Forever income is not about doing nothing. It is about doing the right things long enough. At first, assets need attention. They need adjustment. They need refinement. Over time, they need less. This transition is critical. Effort shifts from creation to maintenance, then from maintenance to oversight. That is how income becomes independent of constant work. Many people quit just before this shift happens. They do not fail because the strategy is wrong. They fail because they did not allow time to finish the job. Compounding rewards those who stay. Another important idea must be addressed. Compounding works in both directions. Good decisions compound. Bad decisions compound too. Ignoring this reality creates problems. Debt compounds. Poor habits compound. Disorganization compounds. Asset builders respect compounding. Because they understand its power. They avoid decisions that create negative momentum. They protect their time and energy carefully. Time amplifies whatever you feed it. This is why direction matters more than speed. Moving slowly in the right direction beats moving fast in the wrong one. Forever income is built by aligning time with assets that grow. Now let us be practical. You do not need perfect conditions to start. You need consistency. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start with what you understand. Then allow time to assist you. The longer you wait to begin, the harder compounding must work to catch up. Time favors those who act early. This does not mean rushing. It means beginning. Even small assets benefit from long timelines. A simple system, repeated for years, becomes powerful. This is why asset builders think in decades. They ask questions most people never ask. What will this look like in 10 years? What happens if I keep doing this? What happens if I stop? These questions guide behavior. They create patience. They create discipline. They create clarity. Forever income is not magic. It is math combined with behavior. Time multiplies what you do consistently. If you want income that lasts, you must respect time. Do not fight it. Do not rush it. Do not waste it. Use it. Build assets that grow with it. Reinvest returns. Protect momentum. Let time do the heavy lifting. This chapter exists to shift your perspective. You are not late. You are not behind. But every day you delay compounding is a day you cannot recover. The good news is simple. Time is still moving, and it can still work for you. Forever income is not built overnight. It is built over time, and once built it keeps paying. That is the quiet power of time and compounding. Chapter 7. Active income is the starting point. Every asset begins with effort. Before income becomes passive, it is active. Before systems exist, work exists. Before freedom appears, discipline is required. This chapter explains why active income is not the enemy. It is the foundation. Many people misunderstand this part of the journey. They hear about passive income and assume work should disappear quickly. They believe effort is something to escape. Asset builders see it differently. They respect active income. They use it with purpose. Active income is the fuel. Assets are the engine. Without fuel, nothing moves. Active income is the money you earn by showing up. It comes from a job, a skill, a service, or a business you personally operate. It requires time. It requires attention. It requires energy. There is nothing wrong with this. The problem only appears when active income becomes the final destination instead of the starting point. Most people stop at earning. Asset builders move beyond it. They ask a different question. How can this income be converted into something that lasts? This is where progress begins. Active income gives you control at the beginning. It gives you cash flow. It gives you options. It gives you the ability to choose where money goes. Without active income, building assets is difficult. With it, asset building becomes possible. This is why many successful asset builders started with ordinary work. They worked jobs. They sold services. They used their skills, but they did not stop there. They treated active income like a tool, not an identity. This distinction matters. When income becomes identity, growth slows. When income becomes a tool, leverage increases. Asset builders do not ask if they should work. They ask how their work can create leverage. They look for opportunities inside effort. Can this skill be repeated? Can this process be systemized? Can this result be scaled? Active income teaches valuable lessons. It teaches discipline. It teaches responsibility. It teaches how value is exchanged. These lessons are necessary. Assets built without understanding effort often fail. Assets built on experience are stronger. This is why skipping active income often leads to frustration. People want results without foundation. They want systems without understanding. Active income provides that understanding. It shows you what people pay for. It shows you what problems matter. It shows you where value exists. This information is priceless. Asset builders pay attention during this phase. They do not rush through it. They extract knowledge from it. They observe patterns. They notice inefficiencies. They look for gaps. These observations later become assets. Another important idea must be addressed here. Active income should be stable, not consuming. Stability creates room for thinking. Chaos creates survival mode. When all your energy is spent surviving, building becomes difficult. This is why asset builders often focus on stabilizing income first, not maximizing. Stabilizing, a stable base allows long-term decisions. Once stability exists, redirection begins. Redirection is the key skill. It means deciding where surplus goes. Surplus is not what is left by accident. It is what is allocated on purpose. Asset builders do not wait to see what remains. They decide in advance. A portion of active income is assigned to asset building, not someday, not when income is higher. Now, this habit matters more than the amount. A small redirection, repeated consistently, changes outcomes. Active income becomes powerful when it is predictable. Predictability allows planning. Planning allows systems. Systems create assets. This is why random income is harder to convert. Consistency beats intensity again. Now let us address another misunderstanding. Active income does not have to be forever. It is a phase, a necessary phase, a productive phase, but not the final one. The goal is not to eliminate work. The goal is to reduce dependence on work. This happens gradually. At first, active income supports assets. Later, assets support active income. Eventually, assets may replace it. This progression cannot be skipped. Trying to force it creates stress. Asset builders respect the sequence. Earn, build, reinvest, repeat. This rhythm creates momentum. Here is a practical insight you can apply. Look at your current active income. Ask one clear question. How is this helping me build assets? If the answer is unclear, direction is missing. You do not need a perfect plan. You need intention. Even one asset-focused decision per month creates progress. Income also builds confidence. Confidence does not come from ideas. It comes from execution. Active income proves that you can produce value. That belief carries forward. When you later build assets, you trust yourself more. You know effort leads to results. This psychological strength matters. Asset building is a long game. Confidence keeps you in the game. This chapter exists to remove guilt and confusion. Working is not failure. Depending on work forever is. Active income is honorable. But it is incomplete by itself. It is the starting point, not the finish line. Use it wisely. Direct it intentionally. Convert it patiently. As you move forward in this book, you will learn how to turn effort into systems, how to turn skills into assets, how to move from doing to owning. But remember this foundation. Active income gives you the ability to start. Assets give you the ability to continue. Do not reject work. Use it. That is how active income becomes the beginning of something permanent. Chapter 8. Turning skills into income-producing assets. Skills are powerful, but skills alone do not create freedom. A skill can earn income. An asset can earn income repeatedly. This chapter is about making that shift. Most people trade skills for money. They perform a task, they get paid once. Then the cycle resets. There is nothing wrong with this. It is how many people begin. But asset builders ask a different question. How can this skill continue to earn without constant effort? That question changes everything. A skill becomes valuable when it solves a problem. The more often that problem appears, the more valuable the skill becomes. Asset builders look for repetition. If the same solution is needed again and again, it can be turned into an asset. This is the key idea. Repetition creates opportunity. Let us look at a simple example. Imagine someone who is good at explaining complex ideas in a simple way. They may teach one person at a time. They get paid for each session. That is income. But the explanation itself has value beyond one person. If it is recorded, if it is structured, if it is packaged, it becomes an asset. Now that explanation can help hundreds or thousands of people without repeating the effort each time. The work is done once. The value continues. This is how skills evolve into assets. The first step is awareness. Many people underestimate their skills because they feel normal. But what feels normal to you may be valuable to others. Asset builders pay attention to what they do well. They notice what others ask them for. They observe where results come easily. These signals matter. They point toward asset potential. The next step is extraction. Extraction means separating the skill from constant personal effort. Instead of asking, "How can I do this faster?" asset builders ask, "How can this be reused? Can this be documented? Can this be systemized? Can this be taught? Can this be automated?" Each yes moves the skill closer to becoming an asset. This process requires patience. At first, turning a skill into an asset feels slower than direct work. There is planning. There is structuring. There is setup. But this effort compounds. Once the structure exists, results improve. This is why many people avoid this step. They choose speed over scale. Asset builders choose scale. Another important idea must be understood. Not every skill should become an asset. Asset builders are selective. They choose skills that meet three conditions. The skill must solve a real problem. The solution must be needed repeatedly. The value must exist without constant customization. When these conditions are present, asset creation becomes possible. This does not require perfection. Early versions can be simple. A basic framework. A simple process. A clear system. Assets improve over time. Waiting for perfection delays progress. Another difference between earners and asset builders appears here. Earners ask, "How much will this pay now?" Asset builders ask, "How long will this pay?" That shift changes priorities. Asset builders are willing to accept lower income in the short term if it creates something permanent. This trade-off is uncomfortable at first, but it creates leverage. Once a skill is packaged into an asset, something interesting happens. Income becomes less tied to time. You may still improve the asset. You may still update it. But you are no longer starting from zero each day. This creates momentum. Momentum reduces pressure. Pressure is one of the biggest enemies of clear thinking. Assets remove pressure by smoothing income over time. Another powerful benefit of skill-based assets is learning leverage. When you teach or structure a skill, you understand it better. You see patterns. You identify weaknesses. You refine your thinking. This makes the asset stronger and your judgment sharper. It is a positive loop. Skill creates asset. Asset improves skill. Improved skill creates better assets. This is how expertise compounds. Now let us talk about a common mistake. Many people try to scale before they clarify. They rush to create something big without defining the core value. Asset builders start small. They clarify one outcome. One problem, one result. Clarity comes before scale. A small asset that works beats a large asset that confuses. This applies to all skill-based assets. The form does not matter here. The function does. Does it produce value without your presence? That is the test. If it does, it is moving toward asset status. If it does not, it is still income-based. This distinction helps you evaluate progress honestly. Another important concept is ownership. When you turn a skill into an asset, you move from selling time to owning value. Ownership gives you flexibility. You can improve pricing. You can adjust delivery. You can decide how and when it is used. This control does not exist when you sell time. That is why skill-based assets are often the bridge between active income and long-term freedom. They use what you already have. You do not need new skills to start. You need to restructure existing ones. This makes asset building feel achievable. Here is a practical exercise. List 3 skills you currently use to earn income. Then ask 3 questions for each one. Is this solution needed repeatedly? Can the process be documented or taught? Can the value exist without my direct involvement? If the answer is yes even once, you have asset potential. You do not need to act on all of them. Choose one. Focus creates results. This chapter exists to show you that asset building does not require reinvention. It requires repositioning. Your skills are already valuable. The goal is to free them from constant effort. Once that happens, income becomes smoother. Time pressure decreases. Options increase. Turning skills into income-producing assets is one of the most practical paths to long-term wealth. It rewards experience. It respects effort. And it compounds over time. As you continue, you will learn how to scale these assets, how to protect them, and how to integrate them into a larger strategy. But remember this core idea. Skills earn once. Assets earn repeatedly. When you make that shift, your work begins to outlive your effort. That is how skills become income-producing assets. Chapter 9. Digital Assets That Scale. Digital assets changed the rules of wealth building. For the first time in history, one person can create something once and distribute it endlessly. No factory is required. No physical inventory is needed. Scale is built into the system. This chapter explains why digital assets are powerful and how they fit into long-term income. Digital assets are assets that exist in digital form. They are created once and delivered repeatedly through technology. The defining feature is scale. When a digital asset is complete, serving one person or 10,000 people requires almost the same effort. That difference matters. Most traditional work does not scale. It is limited by time, location, and energy. Digital assets remove those limits. This is why asset builders pay attention to them. Let us start with a mindset shift. Digital assets are not about technology. They are about leverage. Technology is only the delivery method. The real value comes from this question: can this asset serve more people without increasing effort? If the answer is yes, it has scale. Scale creates efficiency. Efficiency creates margin. Margin creates freedom. This is why digital assets often grow faster than physical ones. Once built, distribution is almost frictionless. Another important advantage is durability. A digital asset does not wear out. It does not expire from use. It does not get tired. It can be improved without being rebuilt. Updates add value without starting over. This is a major advantage. Now let us talk about creation. Digital assets usually begin with knowledge, systems, or solutions. They come from experience, from skills, from observation. They solve a problem in a clear way. This is why Chapter 8 mattered. Skills often become digital assets when they are structured and delivered digitally. The work still happens at the beginning. Planning, structuring, building. But once complete, effort drops while reach expands. This is the trade-off asset builders are willing to make. They work harder upfront to work less later. Another powerful aspect of digital assets is reach. Physical assets are often limited by geography. Digital assets are not. They can reach people across cities, countries, and time zones. This creates diversification. Income does not rely on one place or one market. That reduces risk. Digital assets also allow testing. Because distribution is fast, feedback arrives quickly. You learn what works. You adjust. You improve. This feedback loop strengthens the asset over time. Many asset builders use this loop intentionally. They release something simple. They observe results. They refine. Perfection is not required at the beginning. Adaptation is. This is another reason digital assets scale well. They evolve. Another important feature is automation. Digital assets can be delivered automatically. No scheduling. No manual handling. No repeated effort. Automation frees time. Time is then reinvested into building more assets or improving existing ones. This creates a compounding effect. One asset supports the creation of the next. This is how asset ecosystems form. Now let us address a common misconception. Digital assets are not effortless. They reduce effort later, not at the beginning. Many people fail because they underestimate the creation phase. They rush. They cut corners. They skip structure. Asset builders respect the build phase. They design with clarity. They focus on usefulness. They think long-term. This discipline is what allows scale to happen. Another misconception is that digital assets require advanced technical skills. This is rarely true. What matters more is clarity of value. If the problem is clear and the solution is helpful, delivery can be simple. Technology supports value. It does not replace it. Now let us talk about ownership again. Digital assets are strongest when you own the platform or distribution rights. Ownership gives control. Control over pricing. Control over access. Control over improvement. When you do not own the asset, you borrow scale. Borrowed scale can disappear. Owned scale compounds. Asset builders prioritize ownership whenever possible. This protects long-term income. Another advantage of digital assets is low marginal cost. Serving one more user costs almost nothing. This increases profitability as volume grows. This is why digital assets often become more profitable over time. Costs stay stable. Returns increase. This is compounding in action. Digital assets also support lifestyle flexibility. They are not tied to location. They are not tied to fixed hours. This allows work to fit life instead of the other way around. Freedom is not about avoiding work. It is about choosing when and how to work. Digital assets make that possible. Now let us be practical. Not every digital asset needs to be large. Small assets scale too. A simple system used by many people becomes powerful. Scale is not about complexity. It is about reach. One clear solution delivered consistently outperforms many complicated ones. This is why focus matters. Asset builders choose one idea and execute well. They resist distraction. Distraction slows scale. Another key point is longevity. Digital assets last longer when they solve timeless problems. Trends fade. Principles last. Asset builders prefer durable value. This ensures the asset remains useful for years. Forever income depends on durability. Here is a simple way to evaluate a digital asset idea. Ask 3 questions. Does this solve a real problem? Can it be delivered repeatedly without effort? Will it still matter in the future? If the answer is yes, it has scale potential. This chapter exists to expand your thinking. Digital assets are not a shortcut. They are a multiplier. They take effort and patience, but they reward clarity and consistency. When built correctly, they create income that grows without adding hours. They support other assets. They strengthen systems. They increase resilience. As you move forward, remember this. Scale is not about doing more. It is about building once and benefiting many times. Digital assets make that possible. They are one of the most powerful tools available to modern asset builders. Used wisely, they do not just create income. They create leverage. And leverage is what turns effort into something that lasts. Chapter 10. Business assets that pay you back. A business is not automatically an asset. This is a critical truth. Many people own businesses that feel like demanding jobs. They work long hours. They carry constant pressure. If they step away, income slows or stops. That is not an asset. That is ownership without leverage. This chapter explains how businesses become assets that pay you back. A true business asset is a system. It produces value without requiring your constant involvement. The goal is not to remove yourself completely. The goal is to remove dependence on your presence. This distinction matters. Let us start with clarity. A business pays you back when it does three things. It generates profit consistently. It operates through systems, not memory. It can function without you being involved in every decision. When these conditions are present, the business becomes an asset. When they are not, the business becomes a burden. Many people confuse activity with progress. They stay busy. They solve problems all day. They feel productive, but nothing is being systemized. Asset builders avoid this trap. They work on the business, not only in it. Working in the business produces income. Working on the business produces assets. Both are necessary at different stages. The early stage often requires hands-on effort. That is normal. But the transition must happen. The transition from operator to owner. This transition is where most businesses fail to become assets. Asset builders recognize this early. They ask different questions. Can this task be documented? Can this decision be standardized? Can this role be delegated? Each yes moves the business closer to asset status. Systems are the backbone of business assets. A system is a repeatable way to produce the same result. Systems reduce errors. Systems increase consistency. Systems allow others to perform at a reliable level. Without systems, growth creates chaos. With systems, growth creates leverage. This is why scalable businesses focus on processes, not because they love structure, but because structure creates freedom. Another key element of business assets is predictability. Predictable income allows planning. Planning allows reinvestment. Reinvestment allows growth. Unpredictable businesses drain energy. Asset builders seek stability before expansion. They stabilize operations. They stabilize cash flow. Then they grow. This order matters. Growing instability multiplies problems. Business assets also rely on delegation. Delegation is not abdication. It is design. You do not delegate chaos. You delegate clarity. This requires preparation, clear roles, clear expectations, clear outcomes. When delegation works, the business no longer depends on your presence. This is when it starts paying you back. Another important concept is margin. Margin is what allows a business to survive and grow. Thin margins require constant effort. Healthy margins allow flexibility. Asset builders design businesses with margin in mind. They understand that volume without margin creates exhaustion. Margin buys time. Time allows improvement. Improvement strengthens the asset. This is another compounding effect. Business assets also benefit from reinvestment. Early profits are rarely the reward. They are the fuel. Asset builders reinvest into systems, people, and infrastructure. This reinvestment feels slow at first, but it accelerates growth later. Short-term extraction weakens assets. Long-term reinvestment strengthens them. This discipline separates asset builders from operators. Now let us address a common fear. Many people believe building a business asset means losing control. They worry others will do things wrong. They worry standards will drop. This fear is natural. But control through presence is fragile. Control through systems is strong. When standards are documented and trained, quality improves. The business becomes reliable instead of reactive. Another advantage of business assets is optionality. A business that runs without you gives you choices. You can expand. You can sell. You can step back. A business that depends on you limits all options. Asset builders build with exit in mind. Not because they want to leave, but because it forces structure. A business that could be sold is usually well designed. This design benefits you even if you never sell. Another important element is value creation. A business asset must solve a clear problem. If value is unclear, systems cannot compensate. Asset builders stay close to value. They ask what customers truly want. They remove friction. They improve experience. Value drives demand. Demand sustains income. Now let us be practical. Not every business needs to be large. Small businesses can be strong assets when systems are present. Size does not define asset quality. Structure does. A simple business with clear systems often outperforms a complex one without them. This is why clarity matters more than ambition. Here is a practical exercise. List the main activities in your business or work. Then ask 3 questions for each one. Does this require my personal involvement? Can this be documented clearly? Can someone else perform this with training? Every yes is progress. You do not need to systemize everything at once. Choose one process. Improve it. Move to the next. Asset building happens step by step. This chapter exists to reframe how you see business. A business is not an escape from work. It is a tool for leverage. When designed correctly, it pays you back for the effort you invested. It returns time. It returns income. It returns options. Business assets reward patience, structure, and leadership. They do not reward chaos or constant heroics. If you are always the hero, the system is broken. Asset builders build systems that do not need heroes. As you move forward, remember this. A business becomes an asset when it no longer depends on your presence to function. That is when effort turns into leverage. That is when work turns into ownership. And that is when a business starts paying you back. Chapter 11. Investing assets that grow. While you sleep. Investing is often misunderstood. Many people think investing is about speed, quick gains, fast wins, constant excitement. Asset builders see it differently. They see investing as ownership that grows quietly over time. This chapter explains how investing assets work and why they are designed to grow while you sleep. At its core, investing means putting money into something productive and allowing time to do the work. You are not trading hours. You are buying participation. Participation in growth. Participation in progress. Participation in value created by others. This is the key shift. When you invest, your money joins effort beyond your own. That is leverage. Most people delay investing because they believe it requires expert knowledge or perfect timing. Both beliefs create hesitation. Asset builders focus on principles instead. They understand that investing is not about predicting the future. It is about aligning with long-term growth. Growth happens when value is created. Businesses grow when they serve customers well. Markets grow when innovation continues. Economies grow when productivity improves. Investing allows you to benefit from these forces without managing them directly. This is why investing assets can grow while you sleep. The work is happening somewhere else. Your capital is simply positioned to benefit. Another important idea must be understood. Investing is not gambling. Gambling depends on chance. Investing depends on ownership and time. Asset builders avoid speculation. Speculation seeks quick outcomes. Investing seeks durable progress. This difference protects both capital and peace of mind. Investing assets reward patience. Short-term movement may fluctuate. That is normal. Long-term direction is what matters. Asset builders do not panic during noise. They focus on trends. Trends form slowly. But once established, they are powerful. This is why investing favors those who stay. Another advantage of investing assets is scalability. You do not need to increase effort to increase participation. As your capital grows, your exposure grows. This is different from active income. Active income requires more time for more pay. Investing does not. This creates a different relationship with money. Money becomes a worker, a silent one. It does not complain. It does not need rest. It does not demand attention. It simply follows the structure you place it in. Now let us talk about compounding again. Investing is one of the purest expressions of compounding. Returns generate more returns. Growth builds on growth. At first, progress feels slow. Then something changes. Momentum appears. Small gains become meaningful. Meaningful gains become significant. This shift often happens later than expected. That is why many people quit too early. They underestimate the power of staying invested. Asset builders expect this delay. They plan for it. They know that time is doing work they cannot see yet. Another important concept is reinvestment. Reinvestment accelerates growth. Instead of extracting gains early, asset builders often allow returns to stay invested. This creates a feedback loop. Growth produces more capital. More capital produces more growth. This loop is the engine of long-term wealth. Short-term consumption slows this engine. This does not mean you never enjoy results. It means you choose timing intentionally. Another key principle is diversification. Investing assets grow more reliably when risk is spread. Asset builders avoid putting everything into one outcome. They distribute exposure. This reduces volatility. It increases stability. Stability supports patience. Patience supports compounding. Everything is connected. Investing assets also teach emotional discipline. Markets move. Values fluctuate. Asset builders learn to separate emotion from action. They do not react to headlines. They do not chase excitement. They follow their plan. This discipline protects long-term outcomes. Emotion-driven investing creates stress. Plan-driven investing creates confidence. Confidence allows consistency. Consistency allows growth. Another advantage of investing assets is simplicity. Once the structure is in place, maintenance is minimal. Decisions are infrequent. Adjustments are intentional. This simplicity frees mental energy. Mental energy can then be used to build other assets. Investing assets often support business assets and skill-based assets. They create balance. When one area slows, another continues. This balance reduces dependence on any single source. Dependence creates fragility. Diversity creates strength. Now let us address a common misunderstanding. Investing does not require perfection. It requires participation. Waiting for the perfect moment often leads to inaction. Time in the system matters more than timing the system. Asset builders understand this. They start with what they know. They improve as they go. Learning happens alongside investing, not before it. Another important point is alignment. Investing assets should align with your goals and timeline. Short-term goals require different structures than long-term ones. Asset builders choose investments that match their horizon. They do not force short-term expectations onto long-term assets. This mismatch creates frustration. Alignment creates calm. Here is a practical insight. Ask yourself one question. Is this investment designed to grow, or is it designed to entertain? Entertainment often looks exciting. Growth often looks boring. Asset builders choose boring. Boring is reliable. Reliable compounds. This chapter exists to reposition investing in your mind. Investing is not an escape from effort. It is an extension of it. It is effort placed in the future. It allows your past work to keep contributing. When done correctly, investing assets become quiet partners in your life. They work when you rest. They grow while you sleep. They support you without asking for attention. This does not happen overnight. But once it begins, it changes your relationship with time and money. As you continue through this book, you will see how investing fits into a larger asset strategy. It is not the only tool, but it is a powerful one, used with patience, discipline, and clarity. Investing assets do exactly what they are meant to do. They grow steadily, they compound silently, and over time, they reward you for staying the course. That is how investing assets grow while you sleep. Chapter 12. Protecting the assets you build. Building assets is only half the work. Protecting them is the other half. Many people focus on growth and ignore protection. That mistake is costly. An asset that is not protected can disappear quickly, sometimes overnight, sometimes slowly, without warning. This chapter explains why protection matters and how asset builders think about it. Protection is not about fear, it is about responsibility. When you build something valuable, it deserves care. Asset builders understand a simple truth. It is easier to lose assets than to build them. This awareness shapes their behavior. They do not assume things will always go well. They plan for disruption. Protection begins with mindset. Most people believe problems are rare. Asset builders believe problems are inevitable. This belief does not make them pessimistic. It makes them prepared. Preparation reduces damage. Damage slows progress. Protecting assets starts with knowing what can go wrong. Every asset faces risks. Income risk, operational risk, legal risk, market risk. Ignoring these does not remove them. It only increases exposure. Asset builders identify risks early. They ask calm questions. What would happen if income stopped temporarily? What would happen if demand changed? What would happen if access was lost? These questions create clarity. Clarity leads to structure. One of the most important forms of protection is separation. Separation creates boundaries. When everything is mixed together, one problem can spread quickly. Asset builders separate personal life from assets. They separate assets from each other. They separate control from emotion. This reduces the impact of failure. If one asset struggles, others remain stable. This is resilience. Another key form of protection is simplicity. Complex systems break easily. Simple systems recover faster. Asset builders avoid unnecessary complexity. They choose clarity over cleverness. When systems are easy to understand, they are easier to protect. This applies to business processes, finances, and decision-making. Documentation is another form of protection. Many assets rely on knowledge. If knowledge exists only in your head, the asset is fragile. Asset builders document processes, how things work, why decisions are made, what standards matter. Documentation allows continuity. If someone else needs to step in, the asset survives. This is especially important for business and digital assets. Protection also includes financial buffers. Buffers absorb shocks. Without buffers, small problems become emergencies. Asset builders maintain reserves. Not because they expect failure, but because they respect uncertainty. A buffer buys time. Time allows adjustment. Adjustment prevents panic. Panic destroys assets. Another critical area is dependency. Assets that depend on a single source are fragile. One client, one platform, one person, one income stream. Asset builders reduce dependency. They diversify. Diversification does not eliminate risk, it spreads it. Spread risk is manageable. Concentrated risk is dangerous. This applies to income platforms and partnerships. If something outside your control can shut down your asset, protection is missing. Ownership also plays a role in protection. Assets you control are easier to protect than assets you borrow. Borrowed access can be removed. Owned access is stable. This is why asset builders value ownership rights. Control allows response. Response preserves value. Another important concept is maintenance. Assets are not set and forget. They require attention, not constant effort, but regular review. Asset builders schedule check-ins. They review performance. They look for weaknesses. They update systems. Small maintenance prevents large failures. Neglect is expensive. Protection also includes adaptability. Markets change. Technology evolves. Needs shift. Rigid assets break. Flexible assets adapt. Asset builders design assets that can evolve. They leave room for improvement. They expect change. This mindset keeps assets relevant. Relevance protects income. Now let us address a common misunderstanding. Protection does not slow growth. It supports it. Many people believe safety reduces opportunity. In reality, stability allows bold action. When your foundation is protected, you can take calculated risks. Without protection, every risk feels dangerous. Asset builders balance growth and protection. They do not choose one over the other. They grow carefully. They protect intentionally. This balance creates longevity. Longevity is the goal. Forever income requires assets that last. Here is a practical exercise. List your current assets. For each one, ask 3 questions. What is the biggest risk to this asset? How exposed is it to a single failure? What simple step could reduce that risk? You do not need perfect answers. You need awareness. Awareness leads to action. This chapter exists to shift your focus from creation alone to preservation. Building assets is exciting. Protecting them is essential. The strongest asset builders are not the boldest. They are the most prepared. They understand that success is not just about making money. It is about keeping it working. Protection keeps progress intact. It keeps effort meaningful. It keeps growth alive. As you move forward, remember this. An unprotected asset is temporary. A protected asset becomes permanent. If you want income that lasts, you must guard what you build. That is how assets survive challenges. That is how wealth endures. And that is why protecting your assets is not optional. It is part of building something that pays you forever. Chapter 13. Reinvesting for permanent growth. Growth that lasts is rarely accidental. It is designed. Reinvestment is the design. This chapter explains why reinvesting is one of the most important habits of asset builders and how it creates permanent growth. Most people celebrate profit as the finish line. Asset builders see profit as the starting point. Profit is not the reward. It is the resource. What you do with profit determines whether growth stops or accelerates. Reinvesting means putting returns back into the system that created them. It is choosing to strengthen the engine instead of draining it. This choice feels difficult at first. Taking profits feels good. Reinvesting them feels slow. But permanent growth comes from delayed reward. Asset builders understand this trade. They give up short-term pleasure for long-term strength. This is why their progress compounds. Reinvestment keeps momentum alive. Without reinvestment, assets stagnate. They stop improving. They slowly lose relevance. With reinvestment, assets evolve. They become stronger, more efficient, more resilient. This evolution is what creates permanence. Another important idea must be understood. Reinvestment is not random. Asset builders reinvest with intention. They ask where the return will be highest. Better systems, better distribution, better protection, better people. They strengthen weak points first. This improves performance without increasing risk. Reinvestment also improves quality. Higher quality assets last longer. They attract better opportunities. They resist competition. They command trust. Trust compounds. Once trust is established, growth becomes easier. This is especially true for business and digital assets. Reinvestment also buys speed later. At first, growth feels slow. Then systems improve. Processes become smoother. Results arrive faster. This acceleration is the reward for patience. Many people miss this stage because they extracted too early. They weakened the system before it matured. Asset builders allow the system to reach strength before extracting. Another key benefit of reinvestment is independence. Reinvestment reduces reliance on external factors. Better systems reduce dependency on individuals. Better infrastructure reduces vulnerability. Better reserves reduce stress. Each reinvestment decision increases control. Control supports long-term thinking. Long-term thinking supports permanence. Reinvestment also creates optionality. A strong asset gives you choices. You can expand. You can diversify. You can step back. Weak assets limit options. Asset builders choose flexibility over quick rewards. Another important principle is balance. Reinvesting does not mean never enjoying results. It means choosing timing wisely. Early stages require heavy reinvestment. Later stages allow extraction. Asset builders adjust based on maturity. Immature assets need fuel. Mature assets can share rewards. Knowing the difference matters. Extracting too early slows growth. Never extracting removes motivation. Balance keeps momentum healthy. Reinvestment also applies beyond money. Time can be reinvested. Attention can be reinvested. Learning can be reinvested. These inputs improve asset quality. Better decisions produce better outcomes. This creates a feedback loop. Assets improve judgment. Improved judgment strengthens assets. This loop is powerful. Another misconception must be addressed. Reinvestment does not require large profits. Small returns reinvested consistently produce strong results. The habit matters more than the amount. A small reinvestment, repeated, builds discipline. Discipline builds structure. Structure builds permanence. This is how modest beginnings turn into durable outcomes. Reinvestment also protects against stagnation. Markets change. Technology shifts. Needs evolve. Assets that do not reinvest fall behind. Reinvestment keeps assets relevant. Reinvest sustains income. This is critical for forever income. Another practical idea. Reinvesting creates learning. When you reinvest, you pay attention. You measure results. You refine decisions. You grow smarter. This learning has value beyond the asset itself. It improves future decisions. Now let us be practical. Ask yourself one simple question. When this asset produces value, where will I send it? If there is no plan, growth is accidental. Asset builders decide in advance. They define reinvestment rules. A portion goes back into improvement. A portion goes into protection. A portion may go into new assets. These rules remove emotion. They create consistency. Consistency creates compounding. This chapter exists to reframe how you see profit. Profit is not the end. It is the fuel. When reinvested wisely, it turns good assets into great ones. Permanent growth does not come from doing more. It comes from strengthening what already works. Reinvestment does that. It rewards patience. It multiplies effort. It builds systems that last. As you move forward, remember this. The assets that survive and grow are not the ones that make the most money early. They are the ones that are reinvested into consistently. Reinvestment is how assets mature. It is how momentum continues. It is how income becomes permanent. If you want growth that does not fade, reinvestment must become a habit. That habit is what turns assets into something that pays you forever. Chapter 14. Avoiding the most common asset mistakes. Most asset failures do not happen because of bad ideas. They happen because of avoidable mistakes. This chapter exists to save you time, energy, and frustration. Asset builders do not succeed because they never fail. They succeed because they fail less often and recover faster. Understanding common mistakes is part of building wisdom. Let us begin with the most frequent mistake of all: confusing activity with progress. Many people stay busy. They work long hours. They make constant adjustments. but nothing is actually being built. Activity feels productive. Progress creates assets. Asset builders regularly pause and ask one question: is this effort creating something that will last? If the answer is no, they adjust. Busyness without direction drains energy. Direction without busyness builds leverage. Another common mistake is chasing speed. People want fast results. They want proof quickly. They want validation. This impatience leads to poor decisions. Assets are slow by nature. They reward consistency, not urgency. When people rush, they cut corners. They skip structure. They ignore fundamentals. This creates fragile assets. Fragile assets break under pressure. Asset builders expect slow beginnings. They plan for them. They build strong foundations before seeking growth. Speed feels good. Stability feels boring. Stability wins. Another major mistake is overcomplication. People add features. They add steps. They add unnecessary systems. Complexity feels impressive. But complexity increases risk. Simple assets are easier to manage. They are easier to protect. They are easier to scale. Asset builders prefer clarity over cleverness. If something cannot be explained simply, it is often not ready. Complexity hides weaknesses. Simplicity reveals them. Another common error is neglecting ownership. Many people build value inside platforms. They do not control. They rely on rules they did not set. They depend on access that can be removed. This does not mean platforms should never be used. It means dependence should be limited. Asset builders ask an important question: who controls this asset? If control is missing, protection is required. Owned assets last longer than borrowed ones. Another mistake is ignoring cash flow. Some assets look good on paper, but starve in reality. Growth without cash flow creates stress. Stress leads to bad decisions. Asset builders respect cash flow. They ensure assets can sustain themselves. Profit is not optional. It is protection. Even long-term assets need short-term stability. Ignoring this leads to collapse. Another frequent mistake is emotional decision-making. Fear causes hesitation. Excitement causes overcommitment. Both are dangerous. Asset builders aim for calm. They create rules before emotion appears. They decide when calm and execute consistently. Emotion fades. Rules remain. This discipline protects assets during uncertainty. Another mistake is building alone for too long. Independence is valuable. Isolation is not. Some assets require collaboration. Trying to do everything alone slows progress. Asset builders know when to ask for help. They know when to delegate. They know when to partner. Strength comes from structure, not ego. Another common mistake is failing to reinvest. Early success creates temptation. People extract too soon. They celebrate before the asset is mature. This weakens momentum. Asset builders reinvest early. They strengthen systems. They improve quality. They build resilience. Extraction comes later. Timing matters. Another mistake is ignoring risk. Hope is not protection. Many people assume things will continue as they are. Asset builders assume change. They plan for disruption. They build buffers. They diversify. They document systems. Preparation reduces damage. Ignoring risk does not remove it. Another error is copying without understanding. People see success and imitate the surface. They copy tools. They copy tactics. They copy outcomes. But they skip reasoning. Without understanding why something works, replication fails. Asset builders study principles, not appearances. They adapt ideas to their context. Context matters. What works for one person may fail for another, if conditions differ. Another mistake is measuring the wrong metrics. People focus on vanity numbers. They chase attention instead of value. Asset builders measure sustainability. Does this asset improve over time? Does it reduce dependence on effort? Does it create options? These metrics guide better decisions. Another critical mistake is quitting too early. Assets often look unpromising. At first, progress is invisible. Feedback is delayed. Many people quit during this stage. Asset builders expect this phase. They stay consistency allows compounding to begin. Quitting resets progress to zero. Another mistake is ignoring personal capacity. Burnout destroys assets. Working without rest leads to poor judgment. Asset builders manage energy. They build systems that reduce strain. They respect limits. Long-term success requires sustainability. Another common error is lack of focus. Too many projects dilute effort. Starting many assets and finishing none creates frustration. Asset builders choose focus. One asset built well outperforms many built poorly. Focus concentrates momentum. Momentum creates results. Now let us bring this together. Most asset mistakes come from the same root. Short-term thinking. Asset building is long-term by nature. When decisions align with that reality, mistakes decrease. Here is a practical exercise. Review your current assets or plans. Ask these questions. Am I rushing results? Am I overcomplicating? Am I prioritizing ownership? Am I reinvesting appropriately? Am I managing risk? Honest answers create clarity. Clarity leads to correction. This chapter is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to guide you. Mistakes are part of the process. Repeating avoidable ones is not. Asset builders learn continuously. They adjust. They improve. They persist. Avoiding common mistakes does not guarantee success, but it increases the odds dramatically. Assets reward patience, clarity, and discipline. As you move forward, remember this. Building assets is not about being perfect. It is about being aware. Awareness keeps you on track. It protects momentum. It preserves progress. Avoid the mistakes that drain energy. Focus on decisions that build strength. That is how assets survive. That is how they mature. And that is how they continue to pay you, long after the work is done. Chapter 15. Building an asset strategy that fits your life. There is no single perfect asset strategy. What works for one person may fail for another, not because the idea is wrong, but because the strategy does not fit the life behind it. This chapter is about alignment. Assets should support your life. Your life should not be sacrificed to support assets. Asset builders understand this balance. They do not copy strategies blindly. They design strategies intentionally. The goal is not to build the most impressive assets. The goal is to build assets you can sustain. Sustainability matters more than ambition. Let us start with a simple truth. An asset strategy only works if you can stick with it. If it creates constant stress, it will fail. If it demands energy you do not have, it will fail. If it conflicts with your values, it will fail. Asset building is a long-term process. Long-term processes must fit real life. This is where many people go wrong. They choose strategies based on hype. They chase what looks successful. They ignore personal reality. Asset builders do the opposite. They start with self-awareness. They ask honest questions. How much time do I realistically have? How much risk can I tolerate? How much complexity can I manage? What kind of life do I want this to support? These questions shape better decisions. Your stage of life matters. Someone with limited time needs different assets than someone with flexibility. Someone with stable income can take different risks than someone without it. There is no shame in this. Alignment creates progress. Misalignment creates burnout. Asset builders design strategies that match their current capacity. They adjust as life changes. Flexibility is strength. Another important idea is energy. Not all assets demand the same type of energy. Some require focus. Some require patience. Some require decision-making. Asset builders pay attention to how assets feel to manage. If something constantly drains energy, it becomes a burden. A good asset strategy respects your energy. It uses your strengths. It minimizes friction. This does not mean avoiding effort. It means avoiding unnecessary struggle. Consistency beats intensity again. Consistency requires comfort with the process. Another key factor is time horizon. Some assets reward quickly. Others take years. Asset builders combine timelines. Short-term stability supports long-term growth. This balance reduces pressure. Pressure leads to poor decisions. A strategy that fits your life creates calm. Calm supports clear thinking. Clear thinking improves results. Another consideration is simplicity. Complex strategies sound impressive. Simple strategies are easier to execute. Asset builders prefer simplicity. Simple strategies are easier to repeat. They are easier to monitor. They are easier to protect. Complexity increases failure points. This does not mean avoiding growth. It means building in layers. Start simple. Add complexity only when needed. Another important element is personal interest. Assets do not need passion, but they need tolerance. If you dislike something deeply, you will avoid it. Avoidance kills progress. Asset builders choose strategies they can live with. They may not love every task, but they respect the process. This respect supports discipline. Another key factor is control. Some people prefer hands-on assets. Others prefer distance. Neither is right or wrong. What matters is comfort. If you need control to feel confident, choose assets that allow it. If you prefer low involvement, choose assets that minimize decisions. Forcing yourself into discomfort creates stress. Stress leads to inconsistency. Consistency is essential. Another important idea is margin. Your strategy must include margin for error. Life happens. Unexpected events appear. Energy fluctuates. Priorities shift. A strategy with no margin breaks under pressure. Asset builders build slack into their plans. They avoid strategies that require perfection. Perfection is fragile. Flexibility is durable. Now let us talk about integration. Assets should integrate into your life, not compete with it. A good strategy fits around work, family, and health. If assets constantly demand attention at the wrong time, resentment builds. Resentment leads to neglect. Neglect destroys assets. Integration creates harmony. Harmony supports long-term effort. Another important point is evolution. Your strategy does not need to be permanent. It needs to be appropriate. Asset builders review and adjust. What fits today may not fit tomorrow. Growth often changes capacity. As capacity grows, strategy evolves. This is progress. Holding on to outdated strategies limits potential. Let strategy serve life, not identity. Now let us be practical. Here is a simple framework. Define your current capacity. Time available. Energy available. Risk tolerance. Next, define your objective. Stability, growth. Flexibility. Freedom. Then choose assets that align with both. Do not force alignment. Choose it. Small alignment beats large ambition. Another practical step is pacing. Do not build everything at once. Focus on one asset at a time. Momentum comes from completion. Completion builds confidence. Confidence supports expansion. Asset builders respect pacing. They do not rush phases. Each phase builds foundation for the next. This chapter exists to remind you of something important. You are building assets to improve your life, not to impress others, not to prove anything. A strategy that fits your life is one you can sustain. Sustainable effort compounds. Unsustainable effort collapses. When assets align with your life, progress feels steady, not rushed, not forced. Steady progress builds permanent results. As you move forward, remember this. There is no universal asset strategy. There is only a personal one. The best strategy is not the fastest. It is the one you can maintain. When your assets support your life, wealth becomes useful. And when wealth becomes useful, it fulfills its purpose. That is how you build an asset strategy that truly fits your life. Chapter 16. Designing a life paid for by assets. This is where everything comes together. Building assets is not the goal by itself. Freedom is. Assets are the tools. Life is the purpose. This chapter is about intention. It is about designing a life where assets support your choices instead of limiting them. Many people build income without design. They react, they adjust, they survive. Asset builders design first. They decide how they want to live. Then they build assets to support that vision. This order matters. If you build assets without a life plan, success can still feel empty. If you design your life first, assets become meaningful. Let us begin with clarity. A life paid for by assets does not mean doing nothing. It means choosing. Choosing when to work. Choosing how to work. Choosing what matters. Choice is the real reward. Most people trade choice for certainty. Asset builders trade short-term certainty for long-term choice. This trade feels uncomfortable early. It feels rewarding later. Design starts with asking better questions. How do I want my days to feel? What kind of work do I want to keep doing? What do I want freedom from? What do I want freedom for? These questions guide asset decisions. Assets should remove friction from your life, not add to it. If an asset increases stress, it is misaligned. If it supports calm, it is working. Asset builders aim for calm. Calm allows presence. Presence improves life quality. This is often overlooked. A life paid for by assets should feel stable, not rushed, not fragile. Stability comes from reliability. Reliable assets create predictable support. Predictable support creates peace. Peace allows long-term thinking. This is how assets change your inner world, not just your finances. Another important idea is sufficiency. Most people chase more without defining enough. Asset builders define enough early. Enough income. Enough flexibility. Once enough is clear, decisions simplify. You stop chasing everything. You focus on what matters. This clarity prevents endless accumulation. Assets exist to serve life, not replace it. Design also includes boundaries. Just because assets allow more work does not mean you should do more. Asset builders protect time intentionally. They design days with margin. They leave space for rest. They prioritize health. Assets that destroy health defeat their purpose. Longevity matters. A life paid for by assets should be sustainable emotionally and physically. Another key element is rhythm. Life moves in seasons. So should your assets. Some seasons require effort. Others allow ease. Asset builders respect these cycles. They do not force constant growth. They allow periods of consolidation. Consolidation strengthens foundations. Strong foundations support long-term freedom. Another powerful shift happens when assets begin to cover basic needs. Pressure decreases. Decisions improve. When survival is no longer the focus, creativity appears. This is when life expands. You explore interests. You deepen relationships. You contribute differently. Assets create this space. This is not about luxury. It is about agency. Agency is the ability to act according to values instead of urgency. Assets make that possible. Designing a life paid for by assets also includes contribution. Many asset builders eventually shift focus. They ask how their assets can help others. Teaching, mentoring, creating value beyond income. This is a natural progression. Once needs are met, meaning becomes important. Assets free you to pursue meaning. Another important consideration is adaptability. Life changes. Priorities shift. A well-designed asset life adapts. Asset builders avoid rigid plans. They build flexible systems. Flexibility allows redirection without collapse. This adaptability is a form of protection. It ensures assets remain supportive across life stages. Now let us be practical. Design does not require perfection. It requires intention. Start with a simple vision, not a detailed plan, a direction. What does a good week feel like? What does a good week feel like? Then ask how assets can support that. Maybe assets reduce working hours. Maybe they smooth income. Maybe they remove stress. Different assets serve different purposes. Design guides selection. Another practical step is sequencing. You do not design the final version immediately. You design phases. Phase 1 may focus on stability. Phase 2 may focus on flexibility. Phase 3 may focus on contribution. Assets evolve with you. Do not force the final picture too early. Growth reveals clarity. This chapter exists to remind you why you started. Not to build money, but to build a life. A life where work is optional. A life where time is respected. A life where choices align with values. Assets are powerful because they extend your past effort into the future. They allow yesterday's work to support tomorrow's life, when designed intentionally. They do more than pay bills. They create space. They create peace. They create possibility. A life paid for by assets is not about escape. It is about alignment. Alignment between effort and reward. Alignment between work and life. Alignment between values and decisions. When this alignment exists, wealth becomes quiet. It stops demanding attention. It becomes background support. That is the highest form of success. As you close this book, remember this. Assets are tools. You are the designer. Build with patience. Choose with intention. Protect what you create. And always return to the question that matters most. What kind of life do I want these assets to support? Answer that honestly. And your assets will do exactly what they were meant to do. They will pay you. They will support you. And they will give you the freedom to live on your terms. That is how you design a life paid for by assets. Conclusion. Building something that lasts. You have reached the end of this book. But this is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a different way of thinking. Throughout this book, one idea has remained constant. Income supports today. Assets support tomorrow. You have learned that wealth is not about how much you earn. It is about what you build with what you earn. You have seen how assets are created, how they grow, how they are protected, and how they eventually support your life. None of this requires perfection. It requires intention. Asset building is not reserved for a special group of people. It is available to anyone willing to think long-term. Small decisions matter. Consistent action matters. Patience matters. The most important shift is not financial. It is mental. When you stop asking how much you can make and start asking what you can build, everything changes. Work becomes purposeful. Money becomes a tool. Time becomes an ally. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer feel trapped. You begin to feel positioned. Assets give you options. Options to slow down. Options to choose better work. Options to live with less pressure. That is real freedom. Remember this. You do not need to build everything at once. You do not need to copy anyone else's path. You do not need to rush. You need clarity. You need consistency. You need direction. Start where you are. Use what you have. Build what lasts. Some assets will be small. Some will grow slowly. Some may fail. That is part of the process. What matters is that you continue building. Each asset strengthens the next. Each lesson improves your judgment. Each year of consistency compounds your position. In time, effort decreases and support increases. That is the quiet reward of asset building. As you move forward, return to the core question often. Will this decision help me build something that pays me again in the future? Let that question guide your choices. Assets are not about escape. They are about alignment. Alignment between work and reward. Alignment between time and value. Alignment between life and money. When that alignment exists, wealth becomes useful. It supports your life instead of consuming it. That is the purpose of everything you have read here. Not to make you busy, not to overwhelm you, but to help you build something steady, reliable, and lasting. A foundation that carries you forward. Build patiently, protect wisely, reinvest consistently, and design a life where yesterday's work continues to support tomorrow's freedom. That is how you build assets that pay you forever.